In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Conventions are the way which things are followed, like a set of protocols. In the film industry, conventions have great importance as they help the audience understand what turn the movie is going to take in terms of their genre. For example, a convention of an action movie that would make the viewers understand the genre would be hints like explosions, fast paced music, chasing, and an objective for the protagonist to complete. If all these were to be presented in an opening scene, the viewers will instantly understand that the film will be an action film as it's following all the common conventions of the action genre. Our opening scene had a spy espionage genre, and the main conventions that we used to direct the audience into it being a spy espionage film were things such as our main protagonist, Casimir, wearing a trench coat. Naming other things that we included that follows the main convention of a spy movie is our incorporation of secret codes, which would lead to bigger things later on in the movie. The mise en scene, where we shot one of our scenes in an underground car park, the tin that we added to our film, and the soundtrack that we implemented to our film, all of which represent the common conventions of a spy movie. Casimir is the male protagonist, and as most spy films go, most protagonists are impatient and are time efficient, meaning they want to get straight to the chase. They are also intellectual and have a way to get out of dangerous situations. Casimir's personality and clothing was constructed to surround him with a specific vibe that he can get the job done when people rely on him. This links to a few successful movies called The Good Shepherd, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and Seven, where each one of the actors walk around in a trench coat and a briefcase, which instantly gives a spy vibe. Although Casimir is visually different to the protagonists in the movies I referred to, he easily shows that there's a strong link between them based on his subtle but quick steps and the way he responds to the things around him. In terms of costume for Casimir, it follows the mainstream conventions in terms of costume for spies, which is a standard trench coat and a briefcase with contents no one is aware of, which has the ability to get the audience to ask questions. A movie that we can relate this point to is Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, where the character, George Smiley, is an established spy, also wearing the exact same clothing that Casimir does, telling us it's a main convention for a spy film. Moving to my character, Igor, he is more insubordinate than normal. He isn't the usual lower ranking worker who stays quiet, but can actually have importance in the scene. Real lower ranking characters in an espionage film will stay quiet and polite, and won't try to act higher than their payroll. Therefore, my character is a countertype. To show that my character doesn't follow the main conventions, but rather challenges them. To show the comparison, the chauffeur in The Good Shepherd patiently waits outside of the car for the passenger to enter, and whenever the passenger seems ready, he will adjust to his time frame. My character, as is already been seen as a countertype, isn't wearing the fancy chauffeur clothes that most lower class agents would wear, but is wearing casual clothes that reflects his personality and whatever he finds suitable, showing his insubordination and how he acts. Comparing this to a stereotypical spy film, Seven, the chauffeur wears the clothes that is required, which follows the company dress. I know this because everyone in his proximity is wearing the same clothes. Carrying on, he's following the rules of his workplace by wearing a suit, while my character is being laid back, ignoring the protocol and wearing the first thing he sets his eyes on in his wardrobe. Moving on to the soundtrack, we decided to choose a suspense-filled tune, but not too loud that it would disturb the calm but dangerous vibe it's emitting. So ultimately, we followed the stereotype. But in a sense, a spy movie wouldn't work if you had a happy tune in the background, as it drew in the mood we're trying to let the audience pick up. Therefore, it was our only choice to follow the stereotype for our sound, as a countertype would have ruined the feeling we want the audience to have. In The Good Shepherd, the soundtrack in the background is similar to ours, but the difference is the sound of the beat and the time between each beat. Like the majority of spy movies, in order to build up the suspense and make the audience question the objective, you need a soundtrack suitable enough to guide them into that thought. In order to achieve that, we spent time searching for the right soundtrack until we found it, which does follow the conventions of a real spy movie. For location, we, as a group, decided that Waterman's underground car park was a suitable place for us to film, as we wanted a discreet area where the audience would feel like they were isolated from the public. So, to follow this, we went down to the lowest floor of the car park, which also contributed to the way we wanted the lighting to be delineated while being underground, not too bright and not too dim. The film that has a similar convention of our scene is Central Intelligence, where the exchange of information takes place in an underground car park. This shows is stereotypically seen as a secluded place for spy organizations to exchange important information, as it's isolated from the rest of the world, being underground. The lighting in the car park was dim, but not too bright, so it wouldn't put off the viewer and it would make them think that we're alone in the vicinity. Evident as we have confidential documents to pass on. In the car, we only had the lights of the rearview mirror turned on, which was enough to cover everything of importance in the car. Enough for the audience to see clearly, and most importantly, the point I already went over, to set the mood and give the viewer a spy vibe. But in order to make it seem complete as a movie, we decided to add a bluish tint, which would make the atmosphere much more suitable for our opening scene. This would give a subtle but dangerous vibe, as something big would expand from this scene later on in the movie. This does follow the spy movie stereotype, as almost most of the time producers add a tint. This helps fill the mood of the scene and lead the audience to pre-assume, or in some cases will build up the tension. Overall, our opening scene follows the path of a successful spy film, referring to conventions of spy films that have been successful. In order for it to qualify as an authentic spy film, there were a base set of things we were obliged to do, such as have the protagonist wear a trench coat whilst carrying a briefcase, which would help question the viewers of what may be inside it. In other areas of our opening scene, we decided to go our own way and make my character a counter-type. This means I wouldn't follow what a stereotypical chauffeur would do, say, and dress. This gave our opening scene a nice touch as we went too mainstream with our idea. How does your media product represent particular social groups? In our opening scene, we represented gender pretty stereotypically for our modern generation, as all our actors that were included are males. To expand on this, the stereotypical view is that males are the dominant gender out of the two. Even though our opening scene represents the stereotypical view of genders, it was not the intention to make it seem so. Regardless, it's still giving out that vibe of the stereotypical protagonist. As the protagonist, the spy, is a male, it's telling the audience that he's obviously strong, intelligent, and can be self-reliant. We wanted Casimir to be taken seriously by the audience, and we also wanted to persuade them that Casimir was exceptional by constructing his personality and attitude towards things, which shows that the person is confident and potent in his abilities. By doing this, our opening scene gave a clear message that the male gender would be more suitable for doing the task that a spy is required for, and most importantly, the task of playing the main character. Therefore, our opening scene represented the male gender in a stereotypical point of view. My character can also be seen as a stereotype, in the fact that males are trusted more with important information, as a chauffeur that can be trusted with confidential information is usually a male. The stereotype for a male agent is muscular and agile, and the majority of people working in a government organization would be males. To back this, most James Bond films, which are seen as mainstream spy films, consist of mainly male agents within a fictional organization, further showing how our opening scene represented gender. For our chauffeur, we decided to have a male act, as it was played by me. Moving on, male chauffeurs can be proven to be good at driving and can obey orders, as in most spy films, the chauffeurs are usually males, meaning they can be trusted and are suited for the responsibilities that come with the job. Ultimately, this is how our opening scene represents gender, by leaning more to the stereotypical views. Overall, the male gender is usually preferred over females, as they tend to seem more muscular, respond quicker, and can be taken more seriously when assertive. Also, the males dress up in a posh manner, wearing a trench coat and holding a briefcase. That is the main stereotype in the sense of clothing for male spies in spy films, while in the case of a woman spy, the ideal choice of clothing would not be similar compared to the males. Our opening scene tends to represent that pretty well. In a spy film called Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, there are countless scenes where the protagonist is wearing a trench coat while holding a briefcase. This aids our point that the way our group represented the genders in the opening scene was stereotypical. In terms of age in our opening scene, we followed the stereotypical age of a male spy that would be in his peak form, which after doing some research was around 25 to 40 years old. Our opening scene consists of a male protagonist, Casimir, who in the opening scene is made to look like he's around 25 to 30 years old. The reason we targeted this age is because that's the age where adults are in their peak physical form, and to be trusted with top secret information, we need to present and show the audience that the best spy was hired to complete the task. The person that played the main character was a male who had facial features, which made him seem older than he really is, which made him a good match to act as Casimir. We induced the viewers into thinking that the person who played Casimir, who is 18 years old, was suitable for the role of a 25-year-old. As age is an important factor, many things were needed to successfully make it seem like that person was ready to play the role. For example, stereotypically, a 25-year-old would have a full-grown beard, and the person that acted Casimir had a full-grown beard, which made him seem perfect for the role, as a 25-year-old that is meant to be muscular and slick wouldn't be complete without the facial hair. Thanks to this, we could film the protagonist in a way we envisioned him to be, while also presenting the age of a young adult, which, as mentioned, is the best age for an active spy that's reaching their maximum capabilities. The chauffeur, Igor, was meant to be represented as an adult that's looking to retire soon, as he's had enough for the job and wants to kick the can and relax for the rest of his life. We chose a person with a scruffy half beard to represent Igor, as that was best suited to his personality. Igor also wore a flat cap, which alone shows his age would be up in the 30s or 40s. Many things contributed to his personality, especially his shirt, which is typically of an old person that doesn't take life too seriously, and the habit of chewing gum that was intended for Igor to quit smoking. All helps construct his character and age. Overall, Igor was stereotypically represented as an old adult that is getting tired of dealing with the problems around him. Our opening scene included two male characters that both had a great importance that contributed towards the outcome. Both Casimir and Igor, as evident by their names, are Russian, and both were initially deployed from Russia for the purpose of what's being unveiled in the opening scene, which is a political espionage. We decided to make the ethnicity of both the characters Russian because they are known for being strong individuals, and the foreign accent makes them sound like people that would be interested in being involved in a political espionage. Stereotypically, someone from a foreign country is most suitable for playing a role of a political espionage, which is one of the main reasons why we decided to speak in a Russian accent. Also, to help the audience confirm that the people that are attempting to sabotage the government are foreigners, we implemented the Russian news channel that you can hear in a car, which was coming from the radio. Another thing was the confidential documents that were written in Russian, which is the spies' foreign language, made to seem like it was something of high value and importance, as the audience would most likely not be able to translate it. In our opening scene, choosing the Russian ethnic group for our characters was a smart choice, as it highlighted their personality further. Something great that came from having the protagonist as a Russian was the ability to pick any ingenious name. The name we chose for the protagonist was Casimir, which means bringer of chaos and destroyer of peace. This was highly suitable for our storyline, as Casimir was deployed from Russia to kill 3 targets that are a threat in the opposing government. Overall, we represented ethnicity in our opening scene stereotypically, as having a Russian background automatically gives the thought of someone being dangerous and powerful, and both characters needed that vibe about them, especially being foreign, which is clear that there'd be an objective. We also represented Russians as being assertive, which aids the fact that they are suitable for the mission they've been set, as they like to cut to the chase and are time efficient.